To end this first presentation part of this session, we're going to end on the same high note that we started on and that we've stayed on this whole time. I know for one, I'm going to get my public speaking tips from these guys afterwards because it's really a dynamic group. So help me in welcoming Jennifer Epps-Addison, who is the Chief Program Officer for the Liberty Hill Foundation, a social justice foundation in Los Angeles that funds grassroots community organizing campaigns for social change. Prior to Liberty Hill, Jennifer was the executive director of Wisconsin Jobs Now, and with more than 15 years of organizing experience, her accomplishments include things like winning campaigns for paid sick days, in-state tuition for undocumented immigrants, living wage laws, and equitable development standards. Currently, Jennifer serves as the board president for the Center for Popular Democracy and is a member of the National Advisory Board for the Working Families Party. Help me in welcoming Jennifer to the stage.
Well, good afternoon, brothers and sisters. How's everybody doing? Good. All right, you're going to end with me. Let me first just start by thanking Ben for connecting with me and inviting me here today. I actually have him to thank for spending the last semester of law school on the floor of our Capitol building. So, you know, I get to thank you twice. Giving honor to my Black liberation traditions, we have this tradition in the Black community called call and response, and so I like to start my conversations with people in that tradition. So if you are here because you recognize that systems currently are not serving our communities and you are here to liberate our communities, you are here because you believe in liberation, I'd ask that you join me in this call and response. So I say, it is our duty to fight. And you repeat, it is our duty to fight. It is our duty to fight. It is our duty to win. It is our duty to win. We must love and respect one another. We must love and respect one another. We have nothing to lose but our chains. We have nothing to lose but our chains. Now you got to put that oomph, that feeling into it, all right? So it is our duty to fight. It is our duty to fight. It is our duty to win. It is our duty to win. We must love and respect one another. We must love and respect one another. We have nothing to lose but our chains. We have nothing to lose but our chains. And to give honor to the leaders, the women, the sheroes of the Black Lives Matter movement for teaching me that call and response. So, you know, I was going to use this weekend, as many of us do before we get to give presentations, to really prepare, to go deep, to think about this meaningful systems change. And then Beyonce dropped Lemonade and my life just stopped, right? And I thought, you know what, I actually don't need, how many here have seen Lemonade, heard it? Maybe you watched the tabloid coverage, all right. All right, so contrary to what the news media, the mainstream media is really picking up, you know, while Lemonade absolutely is, right, a radical feminist critique of the systems in which we deliver love in this country, right, so a critique of infidelity, it is so much more than that. It is an ode and a love letter to women, but primarily to Black women, to our experience and our gifts that we have bestowed upon this country. You know, for me, when I watched the visual album, it was a love letter, a message. It was everything I wished I could have said to my grandmother that I never got to say before she passed. You know, my grandmother, Mary, she was probably one of the greatest inspirations in my life. Grandma started picking cotton in the South in Oklahoma before she reached the age of 10. She was just a babe when she was asked to go out to the fields to work. And, you know, her family were sharecroppers, as many Black folks were at the time. And basically what that means is you're a slave one generation out of slavery, so we changed the name, but not the system, right? And my grandmother, Mary, she worked her entire life, from the age of 6 all the way to when she passed away. There was not a year, a day that went by that my grandmother did not have a job. My grandmother was forced to leave school before she could even complete middle school because her family needed her to work. And when she was just a teenager, she moved on her own to Milwaukee because she heard that there was work available in the factories. Now, Grandma, she never got to fully participate in those good union jobs, the jobs we keep saying we want to bring back, those jobs with pensions and benefits and fair labor standards, those jobs that most black folks, and in particular black women, have never had access to. Grandma never got into one of those jobs. So instead she did what many women do. She worked in restaurants, she worked as a receptionist and in retail, and in the later years in her life when she herself was a senior, she took care of other elderly people as a personal care worker. I'm proud to say today that I am a part of a movement, the Fight for 15, who is organizing workers like Grandma to stand up and have ownership in the capital that their labor produces. And yet, despite chasing that elusive American dream and never quite fully realizing it, I would tell you that there is not a single greater advocate for the promise and the power of this country than my Grandma Mary was. She believed so deeply in our ability to hold the system accountable and our ability for this system to move our lives forward. And so I can't, because Grandma, she would turn over in her grave, I can't just abandon my beliefs that this country can and should and will be everything that our communities need to thrive. Instead, I've dedicated my life to figuring out that complicated and oftentimes, frustrating process of moving systems change in incremental ways while simultaneously trying to move and provide a vision for an entirely new system together. And sometimes those ideas are in conflict and we're forced to work through them. We're forced to work through that uncomfortableness. And sometimes we're just thinking about step one in the building of our tower. So let's think about these a little bit. The Fight for 15 is an incredible example. I was there, the second strike in New York, the very second strike, the one before it became a national movement. I was there training and learning. I'm proud to say that in Wisconsin, I helped bring the third round of strikes to a host of other communities across the country. And I remember when I first told my family and my friends what I was doing. I'm organizing low-wage folks, right, service workers to go out on strike for $15 an hour. I remember being laughed at by people who loved me. I remember them telling me that that is just not possible, that it's ridiculous, and giving me a whole host of, free market capitalist reasons why it's just not sustainable for our system. And I remember thinking, you didn't see. You weren't there in New York when a church full of fast food workers looked each other in the eye and made a commitment to each other. You weren't there as you watched fathers say, all I want out of this life is to be a good dad, to be a dad that can provide for his children, to be a dad that can get my children to the next level in this country. You weren't there to see that resolve, so I can understand why you didn't believe it was possible. But see, the power of the Fight for 15 is that from one city to another, from one shop and one store to the next, those stories, they were collected and they were told, and folks who had been hiding in the shadows of poverty began to move out of those shadows and into the light. And with that light, they redefined for this country what is possible. So I would say that the first thing that we need, if we truly believe in systems change, in transformation for our nation, is we need to stop letting other people define for us what is possible. What is realistic? Everything in this country is impossible until one day it's not. There are a couple of other things I think that we need, and we're seeing some of our movements today lead us in that direction. So I'm also really proud to say that I have been working in my own life, in my whatever spare time I might have, right? I have been a part of the millions of people in this country who are supporting the Black Lives Matter message. And, I think when we talk about culture shift, there may be no better example of culture shift, but what you don't see on the news and what you don't see at all at rallies are the millions of people who are engaged in the daily struggle, who are engaged in making Black Lives Matter in reality in their communities. So when we say Black Lives Matter, we have to say then Black education has to matter, and Black workers have to matter, and the love and the resilience of our communities have to matter. And by the way, all Black lives have to matter. And that means our movements have to center queer and trans Black lives for us to truly reach liberation. My time is up, so I'm just going to run through quickly what I think are kind of the 4 principles for the next system. So liberation is the first. We have to center the most marginalized communities amongst us if we truly all want to achieve freedom. The next is ownership. Ownership is important. We need to democratize every institution that touches our lives. We need ownership stakes in our education. We need ownership stakes in our work. We need ownership stakes in our neighborhood. Third is connectivity and communication. The amazing power of social media and digital spaces for us to be able to communicate, refine, and connect to our power and our privilege and our purpose. And then lastly, and I think this is more than anything else, we just need a little imagination, y'all. We just need to go back to that little girl who was sitting next to her grandmother, listening to stories from the field, listening to what it was like to take that journey as a young teenager by train from the south to the north, listening to what it was like to raise a young boy on her own, to not know when one meal was going to come in the door. We need to go back to that imagination, to that possibility, to that belief that we are the change we've been waiting for. So I'm going to end with this. It is another chant. I know y'all love that. But this one I did learn from these powerful workers in the Fight for 15. And it literally, again, tradition of call response. I'll say it. You say it back. So let me hear you say, I believe that we will win. Say, I believe that we will win. I believe we will win. Thank you all.